In 2013, the largest human hunt in U.S. history took place in California. More than 2,000 police officers were deployed in the search for one single suspect. However, despite the fact that there was only one wanted person, it was he who openly declared war on the Los Angeles police throughout the country, and any police officer was scared of confrontation with him. As for ordinary Americans, many of them, despite the fact that the wanted man was a criminal in the eyes of the police, considered him a folk hero. Christopher Dorner was born in New Jersey on July 4, 1979. As a child, his family moved to the suburbs of Los Angeles, California, where Christopher spent his entire youth. He was the only black guy in the class, which is why he was often ridiculed by his classmates. However, he never made jokes about his skin color to anyone, and for this reason, even at school, the guy often had to fight. In 1997, Christopher graduated from high school and entered Southern Utah University. While studying at the university, he made many friends. They described him as a cheerful, smiling guy, for whom the main things in life were honesty and justice. Christopher was a very powerful and athletic young man, so it was not surprising that he was quickly invited to the university's American football team. In 2001, Christopher graduated from university with a degree in political science and psychology, after which he joined the Navy. Within a year of being drafted in 2002, Christopher commanded a security unit at Naval Station Fallon, Nevada. He then served as part of a mobile naval undersea warfare unit. While serving in the Navy in 2002, an interesting incident happened to Christopher that characterizes him well as a person. While on leave, the guy found a bag of donations for a local church. There were almost $8,000 in the bag, and without thinking for a second, Chris handed it over to the nearest police station. This was later written about in one of the Oklahoma newspapers. When asked by reporters why he did this, Christopher replied that his mother taught him honesty and decency, so he could not do otherwise. During his military service, Christopher received excellent combat training. He mastered many types of firearms, mastered many methods of survival in combat conditions, and also mastered hand-to-hand combat techniques. He was so good in these disciplines that he was even awarded a marksmanship ribbon as well as a merit badge for pistol marksmanship. In 2005, Christopher Dorner entered the Los Angeles Police Academy. He graduated a year later, after which he was again drafted into the Navy and sent to conduct a combat operation in Bahrain. He spent 6 months there, after which he returned to the police again in 2007. His police service began with an internship under the guidance of a more experienced partner, Sergeant Teresa Evans. On July 28, 2007, Chris Dorner and Teresa Evans went to a local hotel for a call. The call was due to the fact that a mentally ill person had entered the hotel and was causing concern to the staff and hotel guests. The police quickly captured the rowdy, who turned out to be Christopher Gettler. The man really was mentally ill. They did not take him to the police station, but simply took him out of the hotel and threatened that next time they would put him behind bars, and it would seem that this was the end of the incident, but later he would play a fatal role in the fate of Christopher. 2 weeks later, Christopher's mentor, Officer Teresa Evans, gave management a report of his internship. The report said he was not yet ready for full-time service and that he needed to improve in several areas. The next day, Christopher filed a report on the actions of Officer Teresa Evans during the arrest of Christopher Gettler, the man whom they had taken out of the hotel a few days earlier. The report alleged that Evans used excessive force against Gettler. Dorner alleged that Evans struck Gettler twice in the face while he was already handcuffed and lying on the floor. Based on this report, an internal investigation was opened. The commission heard testimony from several witnesses. Christopher Gettler's father said that when his son returned home on the day of the incident, his face was swollen, and the son himself claimed that he had been hit by a police officer. Then they did not report this to the police, since the injuries were minor, and the guy himself could not clearly explain why he was hit. The victim himself, Christopher Geitler, also stated that a female officer hit him that day. Later, Hitler began to get confused in his testimony. He was sick with schizophrenia and the commission considered that he could not be a reliable witness in this case. As for other witnesses, 3 hotel employees said that they did not see any of the police strike Christopher Hitler during the arrest. One of the hotel workers also recalled that he told Dorner to straighten his tie that day, but photographs from the scene showed that Dorner was without a tie on the day of the incident, and this already compromised the testimony of the hotel workers, but there could be no compromise in this case. There were only 2 options for the development of events. Or the commission decides that Teresa Evans hit an already immobilized detainee, which is fraught with a scandal in the press. Or they decide that he is innocent, which would mean that Christopher Dorner lied in his report. Ultimately, the commission said Dorner's report was not credible, and that he was motivated in part by fear that his instructor, Teresa Evans, would give him a bad evaluation that could end his police career. And on September 4, 2008, 8 months after filing the report, Christopher Dorner was fired from the Los Angeles Police Department. However, Chris decided to go all the way. He filed endless appeals to the courts of various instances, asking to be reinstated in the service, but was refused each time. He fell into a deep depression, his wife left him, he wanted to return to the army, but there, because of his police scandal, Chris' career was also put to an end. And in 2013, with honor and gratitude, but against his will, Christopher Dorner was discharged from the army, and for Christopher this was what finally broke him. On the evening of February 3, 2013, the bodies of a young couple, 28-year-old Monica Queen and 27-year-old Keith Lawrence, were found in Irvine, California. They were both shot in the head in the parking lot of their home. Monica was the daughter of former local police chief and now lawyer Randall Queen, and her fiancé Keith Lawrence was a public safety officer in the department. Everything was done very professionally, the killer did not leave any evidence, and the most logical version seemed to be that this murder was revenge on Monica's father from one of the local gangs for his police past, but the very next day a document appeared on the internet that dotted all the I's. It was an open letter from Christopher Dorner to the American people, it was over 11,000 words long, here are just a few excerpts from it. I know that most of you, those who know me personally, do not believe what they say about me in the media. You tell yourself that this is out of character for the person you knew. I know that the press and the LAPD will insult me. Unfortunately, it's a necessary evil that I don't enjoy, but I have to come to terms with it in order for the LAPD to make significant changes. The question is, what do you do to clear your name? A name is more than just a noun. This is your life, your legacy, your sacrifices. And everything you worked hard for every day of your life, as a teenager, young adult, or adult. Don't let anyone tarnish it if you are clear in your conscience. On July 8, 2007, I filed a report against Officer Teresa Evans for beating a suspect. While handcuffing the suspect, Christopher Geitler, Evans kicked him twice in the chest and once in the face. The blow to the face left a visible gash on his left cheek, disgusting when an officer kicks a mentally ill man. Unfortunately, after reporting this, the supervisory authorities did nothing. I violated their corporate ethics 10 months after successfully completing my probation. I was fired from the LAPD. It's clear as day that the department was retaliating against me in this way for the report on Evans. In September, during a hearing in my case, a video was played in which Christopher Hitler stated that he was actually hit by a female officer. His father also confirmed this, but they still found me guilty and fired me. During the hearing, the department tried unsuccessfully to label me a bully. They claimed that I bullied recruit Abraham Shaflinsky at the academy, when in fact the investigation showed that I was the one who stood up for Abraham. While other recruits sang Nazi songs about burning the Jewish ghetto, knowing that Abraham's father was a Nazi concentration camp survivor. How the hell dare you say that about me? Why didn't you charge me with filing a false police report when I said Evans kicked Mr. Christopher Hitler? You should have filed a criminal case against me, but you didn't because you knew that I was innocent, and a criminal court would have found me not guilty. I would have exposed your department for hiding the truth and retaliation. That's why you didn't file a criminal case. I asked journalists to research every place where I lived as a child, find all the cases where I was accused of being a hooligan. You can't do it because it just doesn't exist, it's not in my DNA. I have exhausted all available options to regain my good name. I have exhausted all legal efforts to appeal to the higher courts. This is my last resort. The LAPD is trying to suppress the truth, and now it will lead to death. The actions of the LAPD cost me my career, which began on July 2, 2005, and ended on February 1, 2009. I basically lost everything because the LAPD took my name and stomped on it. Captain Field Integrities, Justin Eisenberg, Renjik Wynn, and Sergeant Anderson, you all knew that I was innocent, but decided to end my life for the sake of Officer Evans' career. I know about the meeting between you all where Evans' Rick's lawyer admitted that she kicked Christopher Hitler. No, your day has come. Luckily I don't have to live every day like most of you. Self-preservation no longer matters to me. I am not afraid of death because I died a long time ago. February 1, 2009. The attacks will stop when the department publicly states the truth about my innocence. I will not accept any currency in exchange for stopping the attacks, and I don't want that. I only need my name. There will be no negotiations. I know all your techniques, tactics, and procedures. Any threat assessments you use will be useless. I have nothing to lose. My personal loss means nothing. You cannot defeat a fighter who is not afraid of death. An enemy who accepts death is a loss. You know that I have always been the best shooter. Suppressing the truth will have deadly consequences for you and your families. I know your daily routine, the daily routine of your loved ones, and even your children. Where you work, live, and eat and sleep, there will be an element of surprise. Whatever pre-planned reactions you have developed for a scenario like mine, put them on the back burner. I will not harm civilians unless it is a mortal threat to me. Also, I don't want to harm the civilians, so civilians and patrol officers, if you see my car, you shouldn't chase it. If you continue to follow me or notify the police of my location in hopes of receiving a medal for bravery, you know you will not survive. Your family will receive a medal of bravery posthumously. It will gather dust on the mantelpiece for years, and then one day, it will go into a shoebox with other memories of you. Your mother will lose her son or daughter, your other half will be left alone, but she will find someone else to fill the void, and in the future she will be happy with another person. Your children, if you have them, will call someone else mom or dad. Don't be selfish, think about your family before trying to stop me. Also think about whether these liars and scoundrels are worth dying for. For ordinary Americans, I want to say, do not think that the police are your friend by default. They will watch you bleed, stating your information to the ambulance, that it is none of their business. They take pictures of the bodies of your loved ones with their cell phones and play a game, who is the brightest corpse, with officers from other units. This is done not only by 20-year-old brainless youths, but by their grown-up 50-year-old officers. For my friends listed below, I wish we could grow old together and spend more time together. When you remember our friendship, think about this and don't focus on my last actions. This was a necessary evil that had to be done in order for me to regain my name. Luis Sanchez is my best friend, naval officer pilot, and even the best father and husband. I never had an older brother, but I always wanted a brother like you. Jason Boladeo is the greatest friend, naval officer, aviator, great father, husband, doctor, and just the best person. I have always strived to live my life according to the same moral principles as you. Dominica is lucky that she found a man like you, and you are lucky that you married an undeniably perfect woman. Domenica, take care of this guy. I'm so sorry that because of these fucking ships I missed your wedding and you had to find another driver. James Yuzera is my friend, lawyer, father, husband, and the most politically incorrect friend you could ever have. Your best quality is that you never sugarcoat the truth. Thank you for introducing me to fishing and hunting. We city guys don't get out of here as often as you Alaskans. I love you, brother. Sergeant Kenneth Scholar Rockmore, thank you for your interesting training and mentorship. You are the U.S. Marines, never forget that. I thank my friends for an amazing shared experience. It's a little sad that I won't be around to watch and enjoy part 3 of the bachelor party in Vegas. What an amazing trilogy. Here Phillips, you should not remove the 4th part, so as not to lose something special that is in this theology. Once again I thank all my friends. You guys have all been very important to me. Do not be angry at me. I missed several of your weddings and unfortunately some funerals. Some say it's my fault that I was fired. I remember being told in a fit of anger that I had to keep my mouth shut. Maybe then none of this would have happened, but I'm not as complex as others, it's not in my nature. I am not an aspiring rapper, I am not a gang member, I am not a drug dealer, I am an American by choice, I am a son, I am a brother, I am a military man, I am a man who completely lost faith in the system when the system betrayed and slandered him. I have lived a good life, and although I was not a religious person, I have always adhered to my personal code of ethics. I didn't need the Navy to instill honor in me. It was already in my DNA, but I thank the Navy for reinforcing it. My mother told me that sometimes bad things happen to good people. I refuse to accept it. In his address, Christopher Dorner declared war on those people who were involved in his dismissal. His first victim was the daughter of the lawyer who represented him in court, Rendell Queen, because, according to Dorner, Queen was in league with the Los Angeles police and deliberately destroyed Dorner's line of defense. At that moment, 2 large hunts began at once, Christopher Dorner's hunt for the people mentioned in his appeal and the California police hunt for Christopher Dorner. It is not surprising that immediately after the publication of his address, Christopher Dorner became the most talked about person in the United States. More than 2,000 police officers were assigned to protect the homes of his alleged victims, as well as to capture him. But the problem was that most of the Los Angeles patrolmen consisted either of recent graduates of police academies, or simply of people who, in the course of their service, had never encountered such a dangerous person as Christopher Dorner. He was an excellent student of military training, a brilliant marksman, and a man who took part in real combat operations. He knew everything, all their methods of work, and could skillfully resist any attempts by the police to establish his whereabouts. It is not surprising that the police were pretty frightened by the confrontation with him, so much so that even at the slightest suspicion about his whereabouts, they opened fire to kill. This resulted in several civilians being injured during the hunt for Christopher Dorner, but the culprit was not Dorner, but the police themselves. So, in particular, on February 7 at 5:30 in the morning, near the house of one of Dorner's alleged victims, the police fired more than 50 bullets at a blue Toyota. Police said the vehicle matched the description of Dorner's car, but 71-year-old Emma Hernandez and her daughter, 47-year-old Marja Carranza, were inside the car. Every morning, women delivered newspapers in the area. The police cited the fact that the car was driving with its headlights off. Both women survived but suffered some injuries. They explained that they did not turn on the headlights in the morning so that no one would be exposed to bright light. Later, the Los Angeles administration had to pay compensation to the injured women in the amount of $4 million. Surely, this was enough to never deliver newspapers again. Half an hour after this incident, police rammed another car and also opened fire on it. According to them, it also matched the description of Dorner's pickup truck, but as it turned out, the car was of a completely different make and even a different color, and was driven by a white man who was also not injured during the shooting. Later, T-shirts with slogans mocking the paranoia of the police began to be sold on the internet. "I'm not Christopher Dorner, please don't shoot me." The police's fear was quite logical, since by this time Christopher Dorner had managed to commit another murder. On February 7, at approximately 1:30 a.m., 2 police officers were sent to protect one of the officers mentioned in Dorner's letter. They were stopped by a civilian named Lee McDaniel, who reported seeing a man resembling Dorner at a nearby gas station. The police went to the gas station and, not far from it, they actually found a pickup truck similar in description to Dorner's car. They were following right behind him when suddenly the pickup truck stopped. The driver's door of the car opened and Dorner fired several shots at the patrol car, wounding both officers. They both survived, but could no longer continue the pursuit. About 25 minutes later, in a nearby area of the city, a patrol car spotted a vehicle similar to Dorner's pickup truck, but they were not as lucky as their colleague. During the shootout, Dorner hit Officer Mike Lucarine in the head and also seriously wounded trainee Andrew Tokais. He did not finish off the trainee and fled the scene. The taxi driver, who witnessed the shooting, rushed to the aid of the police. The best thing he could do in this situation was to hold a police radio to the immobilized Andrew Tokais's mouth so that he would inform the dispatcher about what had happened. The ambulance arrived at the scene quickly. Andrew Tokaisa was taken to the hospital. He underwent major surgery, but still survived. His mentor, Mike Lucarine, died on the spot. He, as Dorner wrote in his open letter, received a medal for courage, but received it posthumously. His wife lost her husband, his father's children. Dorner himself skillfully fled the scene, and despite the fact that the entire city police were looking for him, he seemed to disappear into thin air. Only 7 hours later, his pickup truck was found burned 120 kilometers from Los Angeles. The police assumed that he had disappeared into the mountains, but every step had to be taken with extreme caution, since Dorner could be waiting for the police with a sniper rifle absolutely anywhere. 2 days later, on February 9, authorities announced that they intended to re-examine the case that led to Dorner's dismissal. Already on the 5th day after Dorner published his appeal, the highest monetary reward in California history, $1 million, was announced for any information leading to his capture. It was the largest human hunt in U.S. history. Several thousand police officers were involved in the search. The authorities used round-the-clock surveillance of the region from the air, but still Dorner managed to successfully hide. This was largely helped by the sudden onset of snowfall, which significantly impaired visibility, but it created problems not only for the police but also for Dorner himself, since in such weather he clearly needed to take shelter somewhere. Police believed he might be hiding in one of the hundreds of mountain huts located in the residential area. However, when checking each of them, any patrolman knocking on the door understood that this could cost him his life. Only 5 days after Dorner's burnt car was found, the policeman managed to get on his trail. And this happened only because Dorner, as promised, did not take the lives of ordinary civilians. On February 12, the San Bernardino Police Department received a phone call from someone named Karen Reynolds. She said Dorner entered the cabin, tied her and her husband up, took their car and drove away. He asked them not to call the police, but immediately after Dorner left their house, Karen managed to free herself, and she immediately informed the police where Dorner was coming from and in what car. He could have killed them both and then the police would still not know where he was, but Chris remained true to his principles and did not harm Karen and her husband. Soon the stolen car was found broken down, after which another person contacted the San Bernardino police. According to the man, he was sitting in a pickup truck, standing on the side of the road, and his dog was in the pickup truck with him. Suddenly the car door opened and he saw Christopher Dorner holding a gun. Dorner told him, "I don't want to hurt you, but I need your car, so take the dog and just leave." This time the police managed to get on Dorner's tail. One of the helicopters spotted a stolen pickup truck near the shack, and it was believed that Dorner had barricaded himself in the shack. Alex Collins and Jeremiah McKay were the first to arrive. Dorner left them no chance, shooting them both. Soon all the main forces of the police and special forces were rushed to the hut, but Dorner had no way back. He was surrounded, the area within a radius of 5 kilometers was completely cordoned off, but for Dorner this no longer mattered. At first the police tried to get him out, using tear gas and demanding over loudspeakers that he surrender. When Dorner did not respond, police used an excavator to demolish part of the shack, after which incendiary rounds were fired into the remainder of the shack, causing the shack to catch fire. The police offered Dorner to surrender, but he made a different choice and, already in a hut engulfed in fire, Christopher fired his last shot. The fire continued until the evening, and only the next day the police reported that human remains were found in the burnt hut. Med experts have confirmed that they belong to Christopher Dorner. The cause of death was a bullet that Dorner fired into his head. After these events, public opinion was divided into two camps. Some believed that Dorner was a common criminal and that he deserved to die. Others, on the contrary, considered Dorner a folk hero who fought for his part. In their opinion, he opened the eyes of society to the deceitfulness of the police, in retaliation for which the police did not even try to take him alive and deliberately burned him alive. In any case, no matter who Christopher Dorner is for you, a righteous avenger or just a punisher, his story is unlikely to leave you indifferent.